All right, what's up, everybody? This is the Kent Farm Podcast. I am Clue, and we've got Ash here with me today. How things going, man?
Good man, happy Saturday.
Yeah, happy
Lots to go
Saturday.
through.
Lots to talk about today. We woke up to a fair bit of news here. It's cool to see though. It is cool. Like there is obviously there's some news that we were waiting on, and then some stuff that I didn't expect. So that's cool. How are you feeling? Like, I mean, obviously we've got a bit of news. Um,
Mm,
the relief being Binge. It's finally happened as we were expecting.
thank goodness for that. I've got to
Mm,
say, I remember thinking last night, look, man, if they don't hurry up, then I give up. At
yeah,
the end of this, like, what are you guys doing? And then Zach just
yeah.
drops the bomb. Zach just drops the bomb, so not just on for us, but around the world for a worldwide
Um,
release. So,
absolutely. Yeah. So it's good to see. Obviously we knew he was working. Obviously we knew he was trying hard to get it done, but Warner Brothers had maybe either dropped the ball or were um, fumbling it on purpose. We don't know. Um,
mm,
but it's great to see anyway. And obviously we'd spoken about Binge and spoken about Foxtel a fair bit. Um,
mm,
so yeah, to see that finally happen is great, and it just means that we can access it day one. Now, of course, the downside of all this is that the day one viewing for us may result in not being in 4K. So there's a bit of discussion to be had. Yeah, I get the feeling just from what Zach had posted though that iTunes and that iTunes is going to maybe be involved somehow. That Google Play, Apple TV, all those sorts of things. So it's very plausible that we're going to have access to it elsewhere.
yeah. So for yourself, so you reckon by far, if it's 4K, you'll go the iTunes way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've already purchased Binge this morning. I want them to know that they got my money because of the Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
I
good
hope,
man.
yeah, I hope they're fully aware that that's the reason they got it. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, so I've done that, but the idea that I'll hang on to Binge now. I'll keep it for the Snyder Cut. I'll watch it on their service, but I'll also make sure that I'm checking some other stuff out. There's already some stuff that I want to watch on there. So yeah.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm a bit on the fence to be honest. I think Binge is most likely, but for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
if there is a 4K option, be it through say Google Play or iTunes,
Yep.
100% I think I'll go that over
Oh,
iTunes.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think for me, like the intention is always to support it anywhere that I can. So
100%.
I'm going to buy it on iTunes. I'm going to buy it on Google Play. I'm going to buy it on Apple TV.
Oh,
Like,
same.
I'll legit spend a couple of $100 buying it everywhere that I can. Um,
Mm,
as well as obviously having Binge just to show that you know we're supporting, and that we've got stuff going on and we want to see more of it. I want them to make sure that they've seen what's going on my end. Anyway.
absolutely. And I don't know if you saw, but apparently, I don't know if it's true, but apparently Foxtel are now pushing a full like DC dedicated channel. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, looking at Binge this morning, they do have the DC all access sort of DC channel on there. But I noticed it was sort of limited. Like it had a few movies. It only had the Dark Knight trilogy, Wonder Woman, and I think that was it. There might have been another couple of things, but it was pretty limited. Like there wasn't a crazy amount by any means. Um, yeah, there wasn't a crazy amount of people by any means, but or movies. But they had by the looks of it all of Legends and all of Batwoman, maybe. So
Yeah.
not quite yet having everything, but it's good to see. And I think their endeavor now, similar to what HBO Max is doing, is to wait out contracts and then fill everything there. So hopefully they can just introduce some 4K support later. And
They're better.
absolutely, absolutely. So we've got a couple of people in here right now. If you have a comment, drop it. and I can pull it up on the screen if you've got a comment or a question. I just learned how to do that, so let's take advantage.
I still have yet to learn, so I'll learn the rest of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's awesome. Now, getting through that, obviously we can chat a bit more about Binge, but we got a Supergirl casting this morning.
Very, very interesting. Pretty much out of nowhere, right?
Out of nowhere. So I'm torn. I'm torn on this. I was excited immediately.
Right.
It sort of didn't feel like it was real when I saw it. And then I watched it, and I thought, like, the video was charming. The video was real charming. I really liked what they've done. They just posted the Zoom call. I love that she just, like, burst into tears with happiness. Like, it was a nice video to see. Very, very cool. But was it posted today for a reason? I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Because it's one of those things where I've seen a lot of buzz online with people like, "Oh, WB strike again. What are you guys doing? You trying to sabotage Zach's movie?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, because they're under the same umbrella. They got the Flash.
Yeah.
And Zack Snyder's Justice League, but at the same time, are you trying to pit two of your big movies against each other? And if so, why?
Yeah.
It's making money at the end of the day, right?
That's right.
It's one of those things. And the whole argument, I think I saw what's his name? Old mate, Campier, shall not be named, talking about, Warner Brothers, like, they don't want to, like, sabotage that. They're under the same roof. And I'm thinking, yeah, and yet they say it's not their property, it's HBO Max's.
Yeah.
Guys.
There's a lot of There's a lot of that in it, though, where it seems to really come down to the ego factor. You look at the fact that Warner Brothers, they're doing the bare minimum to support. I've seen them retweet twice, maybe, and then you look at it and go, well, this is and just again looking at the numbers, Zack Snyder's Justice League missed out on being its number one watched video in 24 hours or number one watched streams in 24 hours. And look, truth be told, it probably is the number one because they only took into account official channels, I believe, and the amount of reposted ones that had 1 million, or 800K. Like, I know, like, Jason Momoa's had like 800K on it, it was only 1 million behind Godzilla. And it didn't have any WB support. So Warner Brothers didn't support it once, and it was 1 million behind Godzilla, which is their biggest ever at 25 million. So the question then becomes, like, what could it have got to?
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because we really, if we look at the analytics and the numbers, we realize that Godzilla v Kong was clearly way more mainstream, especially as far as WB promotion goes.
Yeah.
The fact that WB basically did F all, really shows, like, I think Zach said it perfectly. It's like no one saw the release coming.
No, that's.
It's not really till now where that amazing trailer has just taken the world by storm.
Yeah.
It's still trending. I think I checked it. I think about half an hour ago. I think it was about 26 on trending, which still isn't bad.
Let's have a look.
I think I'm on the HBO Max Direct channel, but that's obviously not the total. But that's like the main.
Oh, on you mean on YouTube or Twitter?
Yeah. We could say both, I guess. I think the one I saw was YouTube.
I mean, SnyderCut Worldwide is trending right now, so
there you go.
let's have a look at the trending news. Obviously, we've got SnyderCut Worldwide, but I'd be interested to see whether we've got Supergirl trending because, I mean, I'm not seeing anything here. SnyderCut Worldwide is trending. Entertainment, let's see. No, so I'm not even seeing anything on Supergirl, despite the fact that they dropped today. So I don't know whether that's just the algorithm maybe working. See, the Flash is trending, so that's good. But part of me thinks it's like, okay, well, all this, SnyderCut trending stuff, but if we have this SnyderCut trending stuff, but we can outdo it with Supergirl, then it proves that Supergirl is the more desired property. And I think that's the thing that they have to consider. Like, if Supergirl is the more desired property, which I personally don't think it is. I think it's exciting and I'm keen to see it. But I think it's just a fresh casting and they're trying to outdo it. You look at the, just looking at it, it was 4 hours after the worldwide announcement.
Crazy.
Mm.
Mm.
So
You said it before. You said it before, man. Like how you're torn. I'm kind of in the same boat because you know how Machete he used the Man of Steel kind of shirt S.
yeah,
For it.
yeah,
And I instantly thought. The funny thing is, as soon as I saw it, I still didn't instantly think that it was in any way supposed to be a SnyderVerse thing, though, because we've known for a while that this Flash movie is essentially about setting up the multiverse.
mm.
And I don't know. I'm sure you've seen the. I saw you and the guy and people watching have seen the buzz line. Oh, she's not blonde, so what the heck? It's like it doesn't have to be blonde.
Yeah. Well, you look at it, and we don't have a blonde Aquaman. We don't have a blonde Flash. We don't have a brunette Lois. Like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So that I don't have an issue with. I don't have an issue with the casting at all. I think more than anything, it's the timing and whether it is an attempt to sort of downplay the worldwide release of the Snyder Cut. But at the same time, it's hard to say because you go, okay, well, this universe, the Flash will start within the SnyderVerse. Now, I was listening to Grace's channel earlier, who was saying that the belief is, and what her sources are saying, that Barry's going to move into the multiverse, where he's going to meet this version of Supergirl, and then ultimately she's going to come back with him to the main universe. Now, whether that is the SnyderVerse or the altered version of the Flashpoint universe, I don't know. But they're also talking about doing this Michael Keaton Batgirl Beyond thing. So I think the intention now is to make Supergirl, Batgirl, and Wonder Woman the Trinity within the universe. So how do we feel about that?
Yeah, look, I think it's one of those things. I mean, when it comes to the multiverse, like this is really where DC's strength lies, right? So, if they're doing this, purely for a multiverse story, I say go for gold.
Yep.
It's the same thing, with the whole Patterson Batman.
Yep.
Story. The fact that we know he's not coming in to try and replace Affleck, like, personally makes me even more hyped for it. Like,
absolutely.
Their own. Do your own individual, unique story. That's decent.
So,
right?
So then does that make you think, though, if they were to bring this version of Supergirl in and then do this? So the idea, I believe, is that if Michael Keaton was to come across, Batfleck would be gone. Michael Keaton would be Bruce Wayne, but Barbara Gordon would be Batgirl as a Batgirl Beyond, where he is Bruce Wayne, teaching her. So then she would take over the role of Batman in the Justice League. Then we've got this Supergirl who comes in, who takes over the role of Superman. So I don't think it would necessarily be like this is a Flashpoint one-off story. I think the idea is that this is the way that we bring in Supergirl, we bring in Batgirl, and we have Wonder Woman, and those are the main three going forward. So personally, I'm not a fan of this Batgirl Beyond idea. I think Batgirl's got a fantastic backstory, and I think Batman Beyond is a fantastic story in itself. That to combine the two and mesh the two in order to just throw her in the Justice League and make her the new Batman isn't something that I'm overly interested in seeing, and I really hope that this isn't something that they go ahead with. And I, just looking at the casting, I could definitely see how Sasha Calle, is it? Or Calle, looks the part as, Supergirl to Henry Cavill. And I really want to see them interact now. I'm already looking at it going, I am so excited. I hope they decide to bring him in. I can imagine a Man of Steel 2 where it's maybe him teaching her after he's sort of hit that point where it's I've gone through all this to become Superman. I don't want you to have to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. For me personally, the way I see I mean, if we're talking, because to me, I think there's two stories that
Mm.
really told here. We've got the outright, the whole multiverse alternative way that Supergirl, is being introduced.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I guess for say well, let's just say like the Flash's version of her, like her Superman, her cousin Superman will be outright Cavill
Mm.
playing it because which by all means I'm obviously all for, but to me, I would be more keen as far as like a Cavill outright interaction for us to outright get the SnyderVerse Supergirl, because we know from Man of Steel,
Mm.
Zack planted the seeds a long time ago with
Absolutely.
and Pod. So it's one of those things like, I guess, man, is this supposed to be a Supergirl where the events of Man of Steel have happened, but it's just legit outright a full multiverse story where she has a much more prominent role at an earlier time, say
Mm.
pre Justice League, if you will. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like I guess that will be a very interesting question that hopefully we shall have answered.
Yeah, and I think at what point does Zack's Supergirl come into the story? Like I know that he was keen on setting it up. So where was I know he set it up. I know he was keen on telling that story eventually, but what was the goal? Like I haven't seen any information as far as I can tell about where her placement would have been. And as much as I'd like to see her, I'm okay with this version coming in if there wasn't a definitive plan.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think from what I've heard, I think you probably heard this too. The rumors seem to point to, as far as a Man of Steel 2 villain is concerned, a Brainiac story.
Mm.
So, comically speaking, that, obviously Supergirl does have a very, prominent role in that story because
Yep.
of what they did, with the whole Brainiac, being really the real reason why Krypton, really blew up in the first place and
Mm.
what led to the destruction of their world. And so the whole, Supergirl, gets sent off the same time as Kal-El,
Yep.
mainly because of what happened with the ships. Like she was delayed in getting to Earth. So that's, in my mind, that seemed to be the most kind of logical way, at least for the Snyderverse story, for that to
But
happen.
but
But
don't we know though that she was already in that ship? So she was sent. It would have had to
yeah,
be 1400 years earlier or something.
yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing, isn't it? Like kind of where there's an obvious there's
Mm.
not a big time gap with that, because perhaps this version that Zach had in mind perhaps is outright like not so much a person that is like around the same age as Kal-El, but just outright like an ancestral story.
Yeah. Or
Like
look,
she's an L, like.
at the end of the day, you could always describe it off with space, how years work, whatever the thing is. Like
Mm,
by the time he arrived, it was. I mean, if you look at um, Zod, it took Zod 30 years, and I'm pretty sure they got out upon the explosion.
pretty much, yeah.
So, from memory, yeah, the explosion was what broke them out of the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
So, and it still took them 30 years. So, if we're talking just the way time goes there,
Mm,
you don't. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, 30 years isn't
yeah.
1400 years, but.
A lot of theories. I think
Mm,
this is kind of why we go back to why DC are good at doing the multiverse.
mm.
We get like a 1400-year-old Supergirl and just like all these random different versions.
Yeah, so I'm seeing thoughts that Supergirl may have already been cast and filmed in the Snyder Cut, potentially as the slave of Darkseid. Um, go.
Story. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's
Look,
possible?
I think to me, if they're going to do a story like that, especially with the whole Justice League 2 and 3 arc, that I think would make a lot of sense.
Mm.
Especially if we're doing the whole slave of Darkseid.
And if
Can you imagine that?
yeah,
Like, and this is I'm not trying to get a bit off track, but I'll come back to it. But to me, in my mind, one of the most like I think crazy events that could potentially happen in the arc is that we find out that outright Darkseid was actually the person inevitably responsible for Krypton's destruction.
mm.
And it just imagine
Yep,
like how personal like that, his whole thing with Superman could become,
yeah,
especially when he realizes that he literally has a fellow Kryptonian as basically a slave of his.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but he sort of knows of uh, the Kryptonians' power,
Mm.
as we hear from Desart. There's that discussion that.
Yeah, exactly, and because they're clearly very much familiar with the power that Kryptonians have, because
Mm,
the classic line of no protectors here, no lanterns, no
yeah,
Kryptonians.
absolutely.
So they're clearly aware of their race. So I guess it'd be interesting to see, like, is there a history? I mean, there's the whole thing where Zack said the real Doomsday is out there, and there's that theory been thrown around that Darkseid may have actually fought the real Doomsday, like many years ago.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah, I
there's a lot
guess.
they can do with this, but it's a matter of, I guess, until we get like a proper kind of synopsis of the story and I guess like our first proper Flash trailer. I guess until then it's all theories, but there's still
Yeah.
a lot of theories that we can make of it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we both agree. We're very excited for it. I think it's just I think that's clear that we don't want in any way this to kind of feel like they're doing this to kind of stick it to Zach.
Absolutely.
I think it's important that whatever they're going for, it's clear. Flash is a multiverse setup. They bring this Supergirl in as purely to help set up the multiverse.
Hmm.
Go for gold,
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to agree. I think at this point we're still seeing everything that we're seeing is still possible for. Yeah, it's still possible that we can. What am I saying? It's still possible that we can keep everything within canon, and as long as I don't know, because at this point everything can still remain canon. The multiverse, everything can happen. Uh, but is Flashpoint our one chance? Do we waste the one chance that we've got from Flashpoint to reset everything and do everything like that, and then suddenly it's we can't stop that anymore. Um,
Yeah.
if you get what I mean, like that's
No,
totally it. And
100%.
then after that,
Yeah.
any decision is any decision. That's it. We've made the decision there, and it's locked in, so we can't change anything. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's it. So I don't know how I feel about that either.
It's a complex and it's a very big topic to cover. I think from what I've heard, Zach has gone on record saying he personally, likes what they're doing and how I think he used the words like DC has kind of, blossomed, like, their branches have expanded
Yeah,
at this point. And really like his original plans like were before obviously, this whole multiverse setup came in. I mean, this and you said it before, right? Like, the whole canon concept. And I feel like by the end of Flashpoint, it'll be clear, like almost in a way, everything will essentially be canon, both the good and the bad of our own
yeah,
timelines. And
but
I
yeah,
think where the confusion lies, and this is kind of where I think even me and probably obviously yourself, as a diehard DC fan, have I guess in a way been confused for too long with the whole DCU because we associate for a while the DCU with Zack's movies, where in a
yeah,
way we can't really assume that that's the general term for every like we can assume like it's pretty much for all the DC movies now, but as far as the specific, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I guess the first Wonder Woman movie, and technically Wonder Woman 84, because I understand Patty has said that is supposed to be connected to Zack's arc with the
yeah,
the SnyderVerse of the DCU. We can't just kind of call this Zack's movies of the outright. Oh yeah, full DCU, because that can be somewhat confusing. So I think if done right, everything will be canon,
hmm,
and we can all like our own individual great stories. Some versions of the characters will obviously may like more than others.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I agree, man, 100%. I
I
think
I think it's just important to me that we see
yeah,
more than just it's this is it and we're done. And I'm hoping that
exactly.
that's not the case. All right, we got a question here. So I'm just going to bring that up on the screen. It's more of a statement from Caleb Richardson. I'm looking forward to her as Supergirl. People complaining she's not blonde-haired and blue-eyed, barking up the wrong tree. I'm concerned that they used Williams instead of Zimmer's score. No, I agree with that entirely. I think as we said sort of earlier, like she doesn't have to be blonde. We don't have a blonde Barry. We don't have a blonde Aquaman. We don't have a brunette Lois. Like it's totally fine for that to be the case. And yeah, I'm not worried at all about that. I'm concerned about the way the impact that it has, as mentioned. So, like as I was saying earlier, if they decide, all right, well, we're going to use Flashpoint to bring in Supergirl to replace Superman, and then we're going to use it to bring in Batgirl and Keaton's Batman as a Batgirl Beyond. That's not a story I'm interested in. And as much as yes, everything can remain canon, if everything remains canon and all the stories that I'm interested in are cut off and we don't see anything more, then what does canon mean anymore? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it's all well and good, but
yeah, and they've got to be very careful because if they do that, there's going to be like fan uproar.
yeah,
But,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, kind of to go into a bit of a different camp here, you know, we could be talking like it's actually worse than the whole, you know, Last Jedi divide, if you will, from the sequels, like you know, like that kind of level of craziness and divide.
The hard thing is, it sort of feels like there's a point with that already. Like I feel like Warner Brothers is working or walking a fine line anyway, because the discussion being had is DC fans don't like the SnyderVerse, which we know isn't true, but in 2016, which caused all this, they didn't know that. But now there's all the like, and then there was the constant build-up of the fact that there was so much hate for Zack's version of the DC universe, that they decided to pull the pin. And because I think critics and all that sort of thing, you get all the DC fans who say you're not a DC fan if you like Zack's universe, which is just absolute crap. But I think we're already split down the middle. So it's hard to sort of suggest whether, it's hard to suggest whether this is something that they want to continue because the fans can't decide. And I think, you know, everybody wants to win that battle. So is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing that they have to fight to decide whose version is the version that they want to continue with? And we know that Zack's version isn't that one for them, but we want to make it that way. So
I've got kind of two simple kind of personal thoughts on the whole thing.
Go.
Flash movie, if done right, sets up the multiverse, brings in, you know, Keaton's Batman, makes, you know, a really great interaction with him and Barry, and obviously, you know, Supergirl's version and a whole bunch of other multiverse stories. They go off and they tell those stories, be it movies, HBO Max series.
Yeah.
And just purely sets up the multiverse. And
we've got
awesome stories coming, right?
The thing is, they have to continue that. And I don't know that they will. This is my concern.
Yeah, so is it just outright setting up the whole multiverse to kind of go, all right, let's see if there is potential for, say, some of these characters, be it like a Supergirl spin-off in a multiverse setting. I 100% agree with you. I don't, you know, it's one of those, I think, you know, they could be on standby mode for that if they actually are going to do anything with these multiverse stories.
Yeah.
I think I heard rumors a while back that there may be a potential of some Batman Beyond Keaton Batman movie or series.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, they're talking about Batman Beyond with Keaton, but Barbara Gordon. So Batgirl Beyond, not Batman Beyond, which is a story I don't want to see, because it's taking two stories that I like, mashing them together, and then making one that isn't either of those stories. Now, we just got another statement here from Caleb. Caleb, so they're basically pulling an Arrowverse, having a different big three than Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. Yeah, and that's what they're talking, supposedly. You know, we don't have any inside sources here at the Kent Farm podcast, so we're not 100% certain. But that's what I've heard, just from other people who do have sources. And I'm hoping that that's not the case, because I would love to see a Batgirl story. I'd love to see a Supergirl story, but I don't want it at the expense of losing Henry Cavill, losing Ben Affleck if he wants to go ahead.
And that was exactly my whole big thumbs down. It's like, if
Yeah.
you're in a story, if your whole point is, oh, to basically, yep, see your SnyderVerse, we're resetting it. We're all the quite rebooting, as all the critics love to say
Yeah.
so much with this movie.
This is a reboot. Yeah, it's getting rid of the Snyderverse for good and all that. No, we don't need that. So, I just want to shout out quickly to Matt. Thanks for checking in, my dude. It's good to hear from you. And Caleb, keep up the conversation. It's awesome to have somebody in here having a chat. So I'll keep bringing up your questions and statements as we got them. So as he said just here, Caleb again, I just want the Snyderverse acknowledged. If they want to go in a different direction, that's fine, but at least give us some closure with Snyder's vision. I'm 100% on board with that. Like, at this point, if they're going to go ahead and if they're going to go ahead with it, give us Justice League 2. We know he could get it done in 2. I prefer Justice League 2 and 3, but we know he could get it done in 2. Finish the story that he was planning, and then reboot, and then do whatever you want after that. I don't care. If you want to keep Aquaman, if you want to keep Flash, if you want to keep Wonder Woman, which I know they do. But at the same time, we're looking at a Wonder Woman who is finishing after Wonder Woman 3. Like, she's only doing this third one, and then Patty's out. So, like, give us the last 2 films that you were talking about doing, and then you can pull the pin and reboot everything. So, you know, whether Jason will want to go ahead further, but, like, I don't know. It feels like you're not going to have an issue with, and this is where we're talking about. You've got this divide, as we were saying, this divide between DC fans who love the Snyderverse and DC fans who hate the Snyderverse. If you finish the Snyderverse, the DC fans who hate the Snyderverse don't need to complain because it's gone. The DC fans who love the Snyderverse feel the sense of closure. They feel like they weren't ripped off. We got what we were intending. Then you get this big overall family of everybody who's like happy to go ahead. Now, you may get the people who say it's not as good as what it was. You may get the people who say this is so much better. Thanks for finally doing this. But at least we're going to have people are still going to be keen for it. Like, at this point, if you finish the Snyderverse, you can continue and relaunch with Matt Reeves' Batman. You can relaunch with all of that. You know, you can start an entirely new universe and build it off that. And I'm on board with it. So, yeah, this is the hard thing, because I feel like the executives are like, it's not an overly hard decision to make. Say you've got two films max that you've got to put out over the next 3 years or 4 years. You drop those 2 films, and then all your problems are solved.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I should be an executive at Warner Brothers, because I don't know what the hell they're doing there.
I'll give you a bonus.
Yeah, well. Now, as long as I take it by November 2017, it doesn't matter. You know, I'll take me bonus. And
I'd probably step Walter Hamada, though, I can tell you that.
Absolutely. Now, tell me, Ash, just while we're on everything that went on with the SnyderCut, are you getting the release of the SnyderCut book? Is that your plan?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ordered it, or are you just waiting?
Yeah, so I'm waiting because I don't want to get the digital. It's definitely something I want to have as a proud collectible.
Yeah.
I want to definitely get the paperback version. It's that kind of thing. You know, kick back with a nice coffee or a nice beer or something in the arvo on a weekend or something. You know, just kick back in the sun. Sun is on, and just lie down by the pool or something and just read for hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got it during the week. My version arrived, so I'm not sure when it comes out, but the intention was for it to come out like the 1st of Feb, and then they delayed it to the 1st of March or something. And I think it's in April now. And then it was but I pre-ordered mine and they shipped it April 1st, or sorry, not April 1st, Feb 1st, or like mid-Feb. So mine actually arrived, and I'm halfway through so far. And look, there's been some talk about the fact that it doesn't give us a lot of information, but what I will say is it's a really good read. it's one of those things where we've had this discussion. A lot of us know, but I think it's one that I'll gift to people who are sort of interested but don't really know the full story. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Here's a
it's
question, man.
go.
Here's a question. Imagine you're a casual, just like
Hmm.
a casual kind of, like you're not like you're a casual kind of DC and Marvel fan. You're kind of
Hmm.
you follow the genre. You got a few characters you
You
like.
go see all the films and that's it. Yeah.
Would you say, as a casual,
Hmm.
is it the kind of book that you think you could get into, and would you say you could get a good understanding of what this release, the Snyder Cut movement, is about?
Yes, absolutely. Uh,
Awesome.
I think that's sort of the intention, because
And that's good. That's a good thing.
for us, we know the story. For me, it's cool to just read and sort of go, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. Oh yeah, I remember when that happened. Sort of, um,
Mm.
that's what I'm finding to be the case with it. But
Mm.
recently, I'll give you a perfect example. I I have a bit of a following on Instagram, and yeah, and that's just from me making music. And I have not been posting a lot about music recently. I've spent the last couple of weeks, I think every day that Snyder dropped a teaser, I was posting the teaser and then putting a little poll in. Do you know what the Snyder Cut is? Hint: it's not just an extended version of the 2017 Justice League movie with a few added scenes. Uh,
Mm.
yes or no? Um, or do you want me to explain it to you? Yes or no? And I was getting a bunch of people reaching out saying, oh, yeah, I keep hearing about it. What is this? And I typed out this massive thing and ended up sending it through to people.
Right.
So I'd sort of done my own little retelling and explaining, and I reckon I had probably 10 people at least who I'd sort of explained to, who then said, "Oh wow, I didn't realize all this, and now I am so keen for the movie." And it's crazy to me too how many like casual people don't hate the Snyderverse either, because I know that back when when it was coming out and when Batman vs Superman was coming out, uh, a lot of casuals were just sort of going with the critics, and the critics were tearing it apart. I've heard that's the worst movie of all time, which is just absolute BS. But then as I'm talking to people, they were like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't actually see it," or "I actually didn't mind that movie. Everyone hated it, but I didn't mind it," which for me is good, because those are the kind of people who go, "Okay, yeah, well, me too," and then they start going, "Yeah, actually, this is what I liked about it," but they've never sort of felt like they uh, could engage with other people that liked it on a casual level. Um, so yeah, that's one thing that I'm really excited about, is being able to show these people. And you saw the reaction from the trailer, where people are going, "Oh, this is a different movie altogether," and then suddenly it's one of those things where they're excited because they feel like they're seeing something new, and then you explain the story, and then they feel like they're part of it suddenly, and that's good. We want more people to get around it. So yeah, I'm excited.
Definitely. 100%.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly right. So personally, I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait for March 18th. I think it's going to
Can't
be,
push it enough.
yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic, and I am going to have to turn my phone off because I am away at 7 p.m. For a couple of hours, and I'm not going to be able to get home to watch it until about 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock. So
Yep.
it's gonna be a long night for me, but I am going to a friend's house who has an OLED TV as well,
Ooh.
with full surround sound, and we're gonna sit down. So ideally, we can get it in 4K on like an iTunes or something like that.
We should do a comparison, because I'm a QLED fan.
Mm,
So you're going to a mate's house with an OLED. That's very
mm.
interesting. I'd love to get like a little comparison. We'll see like which TV presents the better version. That's
So I already know the answer to that, but it's particularly with Zach stuff. It's so dark. I'll be honest. Like a few years ago, when QLEDs and OLEDs were coming out, I had what was the equivalent of the QLED before they changed the name, and I was working at JB Hi-Fi at the time, so when they were coming out, I was sort of like learning about what the differences were between the two, and they're significant. I'll just say that. I'll tell you, I know the branding of why they called it QLED was because they're not allowed to have the rights to OLED. But anyway, QLED is a fantastic display, and it will be fantastic on it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But I
It's one
also
of
own
those.
an OLED, so I'm
Nice.
and particularly with Snyder's movies. In fact, when I was working at JB, um, one of the 65-inch LG OLEDs had the looping display of the Batman vs Superman fight.
Ooh.
That was the display that LG provided. If that tells you anything about how,
Excellent.
and it was from the sequence of um, Batman on the roof throwing the gas at him, and then that whole thing leading up to Superman flying him through the building,
Yeah.
and that just looped on repeat, and it was fantastic. And
Love's good
yeah,
shit, isn't it? Love's good shit.
absolutely. That's right. That's right. Guys,
Thoughts real
is
quick.
yeah, go
Oh,
go.
sorry. I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on the micro LED technology though? Because that seems to me with the new models coming out from
Mm.
what is it, CES 2021. From what I understand, that's kind of a good combo between the two.
I haven't read anything about it. I haven't
Talk
done
about it in
any
stream.
research. Yeah. Well, while we're in here though, we've got a few people in here. I can't see who it is. I don't know who's in here. So all I'll say is, if you are in here watching now, drop a comment. We're gonna be in here for another 10 minutes, just having a chat. So drop a comment, and we'll either bring it up on the screen um, or answer it. You know, if it's a question, we'll bring it up on the stream. What I do want to talk about is something that came under the radar this week. I saw somebody saying, "Oh, there's a couple of things, a couple of news things." Um, One person was saying that they saw that the Green Lantern series may have been cancelled, and then the next day, I read that and I said, "Hey, yesterday they announced that April 12th it starts filming the HBO Max Green Lantern series." So yeah, I guess the question that I want to ask you is, do you think it's going to tie in with the Snyderverse? And yeah, how do you feel on the idea of a 10-episode series focusing on 4 separate Green Lanterns from 4 different
Absolutely.
times?
So if I can answer your question in reverse,
Mm.
I'll kind of come back to it. So to answer your second question, absolutely, I think the whole HBO Max series, being able to focus on different lanterns,
Mm-hmm.
all for it. And I honestly think at this point, a story like Green Lantern, I mean, given the whole Ryan Reynolds version, all the backlash
Yeah.
crap that received, I think at this point, Green Lantern is a character that deserves his own form of justice.
Yeah.
All the different lanterns, they deserve their own form of justice in the different versions that are going to be presented. So 100%, man, I'm all for, an awesome HBO Max limited series. But that's kind of where it's a bit of a tough one for me because from just going off what I have heard, it
Mm.
seems to me at this point, because it's obviously been in the works, and this is very much it's been, I guess, very much a Jeff Johns oriented project.
It had
So
been.
it had
Yes.
been. So I don't know, so just to kind of be blunt, I don't believe that this will be a Snyderverse product. Believe me, I want it to be. Honestly, to be
Absolutely.
honest, would be. But from what I've heard, I don't see it, unfortunately, being connected to the Snyderverse. It's not to say that it can't be, but just
Yeah.
at this point, it's one of those things. And I think as well, like if we go back to the original schedule, I think from memory, Green Lantern, the original Green, you know the schedule I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was supposed to be last year. Yep. Cyborg and Green
Yeah,
Lantern Corps last
yeah.
year. Yep.
That I think from memory was supposed to be interesting enough. I think that was supposed to be between Justice League 2 and 3.
Yep.
Justice League 2, breaks my heart, was supposed to come out
No, no.
April.
Justice League 2 was 2019, and then we had Cyborg April 2020, and I believe it was June 2020 we had Green Lantern. So Green Lantern was the last one on the list.
Yeah, and then we'd get Justice League 3. Presuming
Yep.
that very much like the Green Lantern movie is going to very much be like an origin kind of story and a good tie.
Mm.
the whole Justice League.
Well, I think the idea was that Justice League 2 was going to be the last one anyway, because remember, Zack pitched it as 3 films, but upon the announcement, they'd already turned that into 2 films. Yeah. So it was a 2017 and a 2019 Justice League films.
Yeah.
But
Nightmare Love.
Yeah. I think that Jeff Johns being off the project helps. I think he was on early, and the fact that he's no longer involved, supposedly, and we don't know, but when they announced it, his name was nowhere to be seen, and it was just after all that information. So, and yeah, so that's cool. We just got from Caleb, if they're going to reboot, do Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, do Aquaman 2, do Wonder Woman 3, then do Flashpoint. Yeah, and then tour the new universe around the Batman. Now, I would agree with that, and I think as much as that isn't going to happen because they're already in the works on the others, and Flashpoint's sort of full steam ahead now, that's just not the way it's going to work, unfortunately, but I would have to agree. Had that been the way to go, I would have probably preferred it. And then he also added, the only piece of advice I'd give the execs, don't be reactionary, which...
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And, I feel like that's been important from early on, but they don't listen. So I just want to put in another one from Matt here. I'm just bringing it up now, so give us a second. From Matt. Matt and I used to rap together back in the day. So Matt says, just want to say that I'm a casual, as you put it, and I am loving this podcast. Hearing theories, information, and passion from this for this from you guys is awesome. I'm learning a bit and enjoying it. Matt, thank you very much for tuning in. It's awesome to hear that you are learning from it, and yeah, more than happy to discuss. I mean, there's so many theories, there's so many discussions. You would be really, really surprised to hear what's gone on over the last, 3 years, and the things that have come out are crazy. So it's sort of like it's easy for us to discuss it as people who have been involved and watching for a long time. But it's also awesome to hear that these are things that are new to you. So it's. That to me is fantastic to hear. So thanks for tuning in, and keep tuning in, because we will be talking about a lot more as the time goes on. We got about 5 more minutes. So again, any questions, anything you want us to discuss, drop it in the comments. And
clue.
Yes.
Man, just for our viewers, do you want to just quickly break down all the confirmed platforms that the SnyderCut will be on for Aussie viewers?
Yeah. So the only 2 confirmed platforms so far are Foxtel and Binge. Now there's talk of the Foxtel channel, or talk of Foxtel having a dedicated DC channel, which I think is really cool. And then Binge also has it. So if you haven't yet got Binge and you really want to see this, do it today. Sign up today. You can get a free trial for 2 weeks. It's $14 a month, and it will help. Make sure you hang on to it for at least 1 month after the SnyderCut as well. They don't want to see people churning, jumping in for the free viewing, and then bailing. They want to see people who are hanging on to it because of the SnyderCut. And we want to see a spike in Binge users from today because of the SnyderCut being announced. So personally, I've been holding off. I'm excited though. Binge has a lot of stuff that I'm really keen to watch. And I've been waiting specifically to show them that SnyderCut is the #1 thing that I'm doing. It's the only thing I added to my Binge list, and I watched the trailer through there straight away. So that's the way to do it. We are very likely, just based on what Zach has said, getting it on some sort of iTunes, Google Play, Apple TV, something like that platform. And I'm going to personally purchase digitally everywhere that I can, because it'll end up being $10 somewhere, and I'd rather just put it through. So I'm going to do that. I don't, that it's up to everyone else what they want to do. That's what I'm doing personally, because I want to show that I'm supporting as much as possible to show Warner Brothers there is money in this universe to show Warner Media there's money in this universe. So if Warner Brothers still don't want to do it, Warner Media can twist their arm. That's me.
Absolutely. We've all got our part to play.
That's right.
And I just put in the chat, by the way, for our viewers, the international SnyderCut DC store merch link, guys. There are some people, unfortunately, because of the availability, there are some partners we have in the US that aren't able to do it. But Clue and I have a few contacts. We might be able to set some of you Aussies up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've all got our part to play, guys. We're gonna buy the crap out of the merch.
So
multiple times.
Yeah, so to explain that, we've heard rumors that basically Warner Brothers and DC are looking at how much merch is sold for the Snyder Cut versus their other films, Wonder Woman versus Aquaman versus all these things that have come out already. I've personally gone out and bought 6 shirts. Ash has got 4, and we've got a bunch on the way. So it's locked internationally. It's only based in the US, but there are a bunch of people over in the US who are willing to purchase and send it for you, which is what we've done in order to try and help support and, again, show them there is money in this universe, because that's the only way they're going to continue it. And I think the difference is that back in 2017, when all this happened, we weren't united. We weren't together, we weren't united, and now this whole community has been able to build this up, and we know we can make enough noise to have them continue, to show them that it's valuable to continue, and that's what's important.
Hallelujah.
That's all right. Well, I guess we'll call it there. It's been awesome to have you on, man, and it's been really cool. Been really cool chatting. So we'll definitely do more of this, I feel. And yeah, I'll end it there. But thank you to everybody who tuned in. Matt, to Caleb for asking questions. It's been awesome. I know we've seen a few people in the chat, upwards of 6 or 7 at a time, which is awesome. So it means a lot. We're just here chatting about stuff that we love, and yeah, we'll do this again soon.